Hey guys, I am back for some more Tour 6 here that I wanted to kind of go over for a little bit. I am going to set up my bag a little bit more unorthodox, but I just want to kind of go over that, length isn't too important in this tour whatsoever. So, you see I'm going to back away and just pull out quarterback here. I think accuracy is a little bit more important than having these full backspin shots as well. So, either B52 if you have like maybe a level 3 or a 4, somewhere in that neighborhood would be a good alternate to Goliath. So you can be a little bit more precise with your shootouts and maybe iron approach shots if you have them. But as kind of a secondary, backbone could be pretty decent too. So there you're seeing about 90 accuracy. I play that at about 1.1 per ring. I'm going to go ahead and go with B52 here. I think if you have a 3 or a 4, it's going to be pretty similar. You're not going to quite have the backspin. I don't think you're not going to quite have the ball trail, but you'll still have most of that distance, most of it. I think you'll be missing a couple yards from there, but it'll still be long. You won't have a lot of backspin. But you should have about 3 bars, I believe. And I think I just leveled up to 4.5 bars. So with 4.5 bars, I'll be a little bit more, better off with having that extra backspin. Especially the biggest shot that I'm thinking of is the Milano Shootout. So there's going to be situations where if you're using B52, the 3 backspin is going to be a little bit of a tough thing to pull off, but it's still manageable. Let's say you're on that and you get it, then you might want to use the front of the fairway as your landing zone as opposed to the middle. So you got to get a little bit more aggressive with your aim. Land it right on the front of the fairway, which means you have to be very accurate. But since you have B52, you're going to be able to be very accurate because it's a very accurate club. So you see how I kind of have things set up here. I definitely recommend having Spitfire in there just in case you hit a bunker. But this is the one tour where you will probably be able to avoid the bunker in most situations. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of supplement my shootout guide that I just put out yesterday. And I'm just going to go ahead and do about an hour here with this bag set up. Because I think as an alternate approach, because I'm hearing some guys say, I don't have, Thor's hammer. And, I think it's a little bit smarter to stay away from extra mile here. Oh, wow. I'm getting one of my replays. So this will be interesting. But you'll get to see firsthand how I played this hole. Now, what I am going to try to do, I'm going to try for this tour. We'll see how it works. I'm going to try to back out to basic ball a little bit. Because I have very, high clubs here. You see, so one of the ways to kind of, counter what I'm working with here, if it's you, for example, you don't have that quarterback 10, well, you can just, put a little bit of a power ball on Navigator or Quasar, and it'll give you just that little bit of extra distance. But I just want to, make you guys aware that you're not going to really need much distance. This hole is all about getting to the green in 3 and just making the putt. Now, if you can get to the green in 2, chances are you're going to win the game outright. So that is a nice thing to think about. But you're going to see here, to win, you're not going to need to do that. So it's so funny because I played so many Tour 6 matches yesterday that I'm matching up with one of the replays. It's hilarious. I think I kind of remember this time. Well, I've had this win quite a few times though. 9 straight in the face. And what I like to do on this is I just like to skip it over here. And you know, with sniper's accuracy, you don't have to be too precise with your, you just got to get it somewhere on the bullseye, which is nice. It's definitely my preferred club for this tour, without question. But I played this so many times yesterday that I really don't know what hole this is, like where we're going to get as the shootout. But I know that this is probably yesterday's match. And here you're seeing, I use Navigator. Navigator is kind of my preferred ball of choice for this tour. It still restricts those winds because what I've seen on this tour is the wind will vary between 1 mile per hour and 12 miles per hour. So it's nice to have that little bit of safety net to restrict some of that in the case that you get the 12.0 on the shootout. I'm trying to establish a way for you guys to have an advantage over your opponent. So being mindful of that and, using the Navigator, giving you that 25% boost could be enough, the difference between winning and losing. So on these shots here with my Hornet, it's pretty accurate. I'll go about, a little bit under a bullseye here. Now, I didn't really size this up too well. Just kind of rushing through things, talking. Not too worried about, making it. I'm not trying to really make it. I want to still get to the shootouts. So you can see some of the shootouts with basic ball as well. And you see, the difference between using a basic ball and what I'm using with the Navigator is so little that it really doesn't matter. But, so for a guy like me, I'm still going to win. Maybe I'll win, a couple shootouts less. Maybe I'll lose. Because I feel like I'll usually, especially if I went down and played, normal trophy players, like 1,500 trophies, for example. And that's where most players are. If I was to go down to 1,500 trophy players, well, my trophy count would have to be in that range. If it was, I feel like I'd win a vast majority of these shootouts, all the holes. I feel pretty confident that I'd win at least 80%. And the difference between, basic ball and Navigator, I might give up 5% of my wins, I feel. Because I think there's a large margin of error in the shootouts. So you'll see some mistakes from your opponent. This is the only tour where that kind of comes into play, where, in my opinion, across the board, almost all the shootouts, you're going to be given a chance. The shot's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 yards. Sometimes even more than that. Sometimes guys don't even hit the green because the wind is so hard. And they just don't have that mindset to overcome the obstacles to get on the green. So that's kind of the reason that I'm putting out these videos, to get you in that mindset, to be thinking about these shots. And here you're seeing me. I know I hit a pretty decent shot here, regardless of which time it is. I did pretty well on this hole. I think I had, one time, and I know at least once yesterday I did hit the collar, and it did run down the hill. That was just bad luck more than anything. So let's talk about this shot a little bit. So you're seeing I get it with sniper. I'm going to take off a little bit of the backspin that I like to use because I want the ball rolling a little bit. So you kind of see what I'm doing, and now, I don't have the luxury of side spin at all. So I need to kind of estimate my distance pretty well here. And instead of going, 7 rings, which is where most guys are making the mistake, you need to go somewhere between 8 and 9 rings for your aim. Now, on top of what I'm doing, I'm going to need quite a bit of curl. And I really wish I didn't hit that great ball, but I'm hoping I can still get the ball rolling towards the cup. And there you're seeing it. It is shooting out to the left a little bit, and it's going to be close. This is going to be close. I think he might have got me. He did. And it's basically by that great ball, because it pushed it a yard left of where I needed to go. And because of that, you're seeing, that shootout beat it. But on that wind, for you guys, you're not going to have to match up with 5170 replays. So the shots are going to have quite a bit more margin of error. The percentage that you're going to win at 3.5 yards on that wind, I'm assuming you're going to have pretty good success if you can mimic what I just did there. And the difference between me winning and losing there was it came down to kind of virtually guessing whether or not, I had enough yardage to get to the hole. It looked like I was relatively close. I guessed probably, a yard and a half. I was probably a yard and a half short. And then you saw that it came in just to the left there. Because of the great ball. So you're seeing my margin of error there, and I'm going to judge what to do here on this one based on what my opponent does. So with quarterback, I'm not going to have much distance, but if he hits a really nice drive here, that's going to force me to break out a half decent ball. So it's always nice save some of your tournament balls for, matches like this. Like if I was going first, I wouldn't know what I needed to do because he hasn't hit a shot yet. But you see, he doesn't even get to the green. There's a chance that I'm going to win this outright with an eagle. So you can do one of two things. You can either try to get that eagle, and it seems like the only way that's going to be possible is with a little bit of a power ball. So you kind of see my ball inventory here, not so much for anything other than Kingsmaker here. I just want to kind of touch over on this. I'm going to back off on my backspin here because I need more distance to make sure that I hop the bunker. And even this I feel like is probably going to be kind of close. So you're seeing what I'm doing with my backspin there. Of course, I need to account visually. I need to think 9 rings over is where my ball's going to land. So I'm visually trying to picture that. And I do want to get, somewhat aggressive with my aim. And there you're seeing it. And there you're seeing I hop the bunker. It's going right at the pin, and it just goes over the green. So, there's a large percentage chance if you can execute this shot and see what I needed to do to win this match outright. I needed to use a katana. Now, there's no way of knowing when I'm playing a lot of replays whether or not, my pump, I feel like there's going to be a large percentage of times, this is probably going in. I'm just going to let you know. The odds are this is going in. They don't usually give you, on this hole, eagle to win. Like, that just doesn't happen. But I got lucky this time. And, that's just something to consider, is taking advantage of this hole, not even getting to a shootout, and bringing it into a chance. And, of course, when you're this close, especially on a 3 wind, you don't even have to play. You don't even have to move this from the pin. Like, that's how little wind you have to play for this dunk shot. So I want you to be aware of that. Never try to do too much with the shot. and put it out towards the edge of the cup, and then, for instance, like great ball shank it and miss the dunk. I had enough tolerance there to go great ball left, great ball right. All I did was put it on the center of the cup and just went for it. So don't try to, do too much with your wind play. You look at that wind, and I think, a lot of guys are visual. They're like, oh no, I don't want the wind to take this, but you're in there so close. And if you don't know how to tell if you're in there close enough, check out my tutorial on wind play, like advanced wind play techniques for, I titled it for wedge play, sand wedge, and rough iron. So you can use those 3 clubs as kind of your identifier. It's in the title. If you want to search for that. And I kind of go through a sizing up distance method that would just prove to you that wind is going to play very minimally. I was in there close enough that my yards per ring play that close is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15. So it takes 10 to 15 miles per hour of wind there to make me have to go 1 ring over. And 1 ring over is still in the cup. So keep that in mind when you're doing your dunks. You would need a pretty severe wind to even move it over half cup to where it would need to go to the edge of the cup. You would need a very massive wind, and you would need a little bit more distance than I just was. Because I feel like with that shot, I was about 10 yards only. Quarter club at the absolute most. It was probably more like, 8 to 10, somewhere in there. So keep that in mind. And let's talk about this hole now. Now, you're seeing my opponent up by the green here. So I'm going to switch back to basic ball here. And we're going to work through this because I'm assuming, if I can get my eagle here, I probably would win outright. I'm assuming they're not going to give me a replay where that goes in. So what I like to do here is I like to play this other fairway, and I want to go at least, 7 rings. Make sure that, 7 rings is good. I do it with some curl. You see I'm adding just ever so slightly some power. And I just kind of land for that spot there, and it just kind of shoots through here. Now, with quarterback, I play, roughly 0.9 per ring, for example, or 0.8, somewhere in there. Like, I make sure, so if it's 6 miles per hour, I make sure I'm good for 7 rings, minimum. And, if it was a Thor's hammer, I do the same kind of thing. So if my Thor's hammer is, playing 1.7 per ring, I'm probably playing at 1.2, 1.3, and being a little cautious with how much I go, because it kind of requires it. It plays downhill, so you always have to over adjust whatever your club is set up to. Like my quarterback's set up to 1.0. There's at least 15 to 20% more wind, so playing that 0.8 per ring there is going to be the nice safe number for you. So now for this shot, I'm going to kind of size up my distance first. And I just want to talk about this a little bit. So I usually do maybe about three or four backspin. What I want to do on this one is I want to make sure that the ball doesn't stop because it's going up a hill. So you're going to see me play this a little bit different. Now it is downwind, but I'm more towards min club. So at min club, it plays more like 1.3 per ring. I'm going to go, instead of, the usual 10, I'm going to go about 8 here. So here I'm going 8, but on top of that, since it's so right to left, it's going to come in so much more and have like a swing to it. I got collared. That was a bad break right there. It was kind of going towards the hole. Probably had a chance. But I just want to talk about that little technique that I did, that little curl back. It was more than anything to just kind of straighten out the ball after it lands. Because after I do my ring adjustment, and you know that wind's pushing it at a right to left angle, very strong, it's going to cause the ball to, once it lands, deflect at kind of like maybe like a 5-degree angle to the left, because that's the way that the wind is going. So what you're seeing me do there is I'm just kind of countering that with a little bit of curl. So I want you to keep that in mind. You always have to be thinking about things like that when you're hitting shots, especially once they get high into the wind like that. You don't have to think about it so much when it's 4 or 5 miles per hour. Kind of the method that I like when the wind's a little bit smaller, as opposed to countering it. I'll just do an over adjustment. So for example, if I over adjust by a ring or whatever, say it's a sniper, and I over adjust my sniper by a ring, then it'll basically deflect back towards the hole with that over adjustment. So here now you're seeing, this is kind of the hole I was talking about. Now I'm into the wind, but like I was mentioning before, you can play it more towards here with 3 backspin. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to set it up that way this time, but if we get this again, I will. So again, let's see if I can't just find about 6 rings. It looks like I can't because I have the wrong angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to curl back, creating that extra ring that I wanted to go. And you're actually seeing me kind of land a little bit short there. And you see how the ball's deflecting to the right there. Now I did hit that side hill. You see I was trying to curl it back to kind of get it in that nice range, and you saw me just get a little bit lazy. And of course I'm up against the Kingsmaker here. So the percentage chance that I could hit that bad of a shot and still pull this win out is going to be pretty low. So for instance, let's just say your B52 only has 3 backspin, or whatever you're using only has 3 backspin. You typically want to shoot a little bit more towards that 3.5, and if you haven't seen some of my shootouts, you might want to look up those. Might help you a little bit. And you're seeing this shootout very tight. I'm assuming it's going to be, when you play replays in this tour, it's just kind of an up and down type performance that you're going to see. Now, especially with basic ball. So, more of my video that I'm doing for you guys right now is just going to get you kind of a good game plan and have you figure out a lot of these shots, and be able to have success executing the shot. You don't have to worry about now, if I put on a Marlin there, for example, that would have made that shootout shot monumentally easy. So if you can, take it upon yourself to put on Marlin balls, I'm going to let you know that having that little bit of side spin to reduce all the curl that I had to keep putting on is going to make your life a whole lot easier. So again, here's another nice little Kingsmaker I got to go against. But I just want to kind of point out, visually for you guys, it's not the distance that's going to beat me. I don't need distance on these tours. It's not like he's going to get his albatross. Oh, wow, he might not even, he's going to have to hold out now. I don't know what that was. I don't know why you'd do that. So the shot here is typically a skip shot. To make my life a little bit easier, because I'm going to let you know this is a very difficult tee shot here, I am going to, especially since it's so into the wind. Now what I like to do is I like to cheat this right of the fairway. Now when you have the wind pointed right to left here and you go for the curl shot, it's not going to come back as far as you want it to. It's going to end up even more left, so I can get even a little bit more aggressive than you would ever think, because when I go to curl this here, it's going to kind of hang out to the left a little bit. And you're going to get to see that here. Let's take a look at the landing zone. You see it landing with a lot of fairway there. A ton of fairway. So you see me put on the Marlin just to kind of restrict the wind since it was so into the wind, and to give me that little bit of extra curl that I wanted to keep it out of the bunker. And keep in mind exactly what I just showed you there. When I do that full curl shot, did you see how left that ended up in the fairway? There was plenty of room for error. I mean, I still had 3 or 4. I bet none of you would probably visually think that, I was 4 or 5 rings, like plenty safe from putting it in the, off the edge of the cliff there. But that's just the way that the wind tends to work. So I just wanted to point that out to you for this. And of course, let's try to size this up here. Now you see, this is probably just going to get to the hole like this. I'm going to take off ever so slightly. Now, one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is that this is going to cause the ball to come in a little bit hotter since it's downwind. So instead of doing like a 7.5 ring adjustment, I'm going to go the full 8 here. I just want to, and I'm also going to do that other technique that I was mentioning. I'm going to swing it as well, because I want it to kind of go back to that normal line, and it looks like I went too much with it. So another thing here that I kind of disregarded, this hole tends to play a tiny bit uphill on that second shot. I see myself overcorrecting quite a bit. When I was right at full club there, it should have played 1.0 per ring. I find it actually play more like 1.1 per ring, and it's just something that I kind of forgot before I even was setting up there, and I was kind of running out of time. But I just want to make note of that, because now I've called it. I remember that it always does tend to play a little bit uphill. And again, this is kind of what I was mentioning before about how you'll see your opponent make a mistake and when you're playing replays, and then they'll just hole out. It's just something to be accustomed to. Whereas, if your opponent makes a mistake, they might, but when you're not playing a replay, it's more of a 50-50 circumstance. Or not even that. They'll probably hold it out 20% of the time, or 10% of the time, a very low number from the rough or whatever. And but against the replay, it's virtually a guarantee. Now, I do want to go over this shot here. I want to talk about lining up a little bit more towards the beginning of the fairway. And again, like how I said before, that's how this hole will be a lot more simple. Now you see what I'm able to do is I'm able to make the side spin there to get it going towards the hole. So you're going to see me play the 3 top spin that I was just mentioning, and I'm going to do it. You see, you can be very precise with B52, and I'm using more of the front of the landing zone, and there you're seeing it come in towards the hole. Now, it looks like I missed just a little bit to the right. You have to be a little cautious. You see, I hit that kind of hill and it started funneling to the right, so you got to keep it just to the left of that spot, and it goes more straight at the hole. And again, we're playing another replay here where I'm playing against a Kingsmaker. So, you just have to assume if you have, an opponent like this, that they're going to be very challenging to beat. But more so importantly than showing you, the best way to hit this close here, because I wouldn't have played that shot. I wanted to make sure that you know how to play it off the front of that island, because you might need it. So, I'll basically just concede the loss here. I could still win with that shot, I want you to know, but, it's a little bit harder shot to pull off. It's a little bit easier if I was, for example, to, play the 3.5 more towards the middle of the fairway. The way that the ball bounces into the green is a little bit better. It's a little bit easier. So I just want you to be aware, just in case you don't have a lot of backspin and you still want to use B52, you'll be able to still do that and just play it off the front of that island. You see, I still came up a little bit short, so even if it was pointed downwind. Now, the time that it's going to start to probably be a problem is if you got like a 9 downwind. There's almost no way you're stopping that thing. So you'd have to, like, if you only had 3 backspins, you'd have to jam it far back as far as possible on that shootout. And you'd have to land on the frontmost point to kind of stop it as fast as you can. And you're probably still going to be about 2 yards long, maybe 2.5. But it's still doable. You could still technically win. I kind of want to mention an alternate approach. Maybe you've seen guys do it. If the wind is heavy downwind like that, you can go for the left rough, and you can play like a right curl off the like a top spin B52 or sniper, one or the other, and it'll kind of feed towards the hole as well off the hill. I just wanted to point that out. And here you're seeing, same kind of thing here, downwind. You see my opponent in the bunker. With quarterback, I'm kind of taken out of that shot. I really don't have that as an option. So what you're going to see me do is I'll just beat it out here to the right, left, and I can still hole out from here. So, especially if we get a night's wind, you just never know what you're going to get with the wind. So here's a 4.0. And, with a 4.0, I can make this shot just as easily as, this other guy can. So I think this is actually a funny account. This is the known cheater guy, I believe. Or at least suspected. Because here, when you look at his win percentage, it's only 56. That's nothing ridiculous. But the shots that he's pulling off make you think that he has some kind of game hack, just to even go for this shot. Because you always see, I think, he hits a lot of perfect balls pretty much every time. And, won't necessarily have a lot of ball trail, but he'll hit this worldly shot. So it just seems, highly suspicious in the golf community from everything that I've seen on Elite. Now, let's talk about this shot a little bit. I forget if I was towards max club. I am kind of towards the max club here. Maybe I'll play 1.2 per ring, for example, when I'm pushing max club. And I might over adjust just a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go about 3 rings, kind of as spot on as I can be. Maybe just a hair over adjustment like I was mentioning. Oh, tell me I didn't stop. See, it's perfect. So this is another one where you can, take advantage of a stroke, especially if you get, a highly manageable wind like you saw me get, and just win the match outright, as opposed to going to shootouts. So I want you to be aware of that, because if you can, get a couple of those, you're going to find Tour 6 to really not be as bad as, advertised. I've talked a lot about the shootouts, so that's why I kind of wanted to put just, give you just maybe another hour of coverage, just so you could see kind of some shot making skills and shot types for you to be able to kind of get through this tour in kind of the most manageable way possible. And you don't have to be afraid of your opponent, putting on a Titan. Like, in my videos, I'm not worried about the distance aspect of what I'm seeing. It's not the distance that I'm worried about in this tour. You see the game, even for me, at 5170, it's not stacking the deck against me to give me impossible to make shots. You have seen a couple tight shootouts in this video, a little bit tighter than typical, but nothing that I couldn't beat. And so keep that in mind. And same thing with this hole. It's basically get your eagle and move on to the shootout. And the one thing that I want to just mention to you guys is you can albatross this one. If you can hit that drive that I just showed you on that last tee shot. Now I do highly recommend the skip shot here. And when you get a kind of a tough tee shot like this, I want you to be a little aggressive with your aim over here on the right. Make sure that you're keeping it out of the bunker there. And then on top of that, put your curl on. Don't do anything too crazy here. And just keep it away from that bunker here. Here you're seeing me way away from the bunker. And what this does, getting it over here to the right, it gives you a better angle. And like I said, you never know what the wind that they're going to give you here. If they give me a 2 wind, crap, I can burn the edge on 2, 3, 4 miles per hour. I can give this a chance to go in. And that's what you got to be, that's kind of the mindset that you got to be thinking. And never get too, hot-headed. I got on the wrong end of a couple shootouts there. You saw it. But I didn't let it sweat me. Like, I always think the next shootout can be the one where, I go on a 10-game win streak. So kind of keeping that mindset is very important when you're doing these matches, especially Tour 6, because I'm telling you, if I wanted to go for the record as to how many wins that I could do in a row, it would be on Tour 6. Because all I would need to do is kind of come down to like the 1,000 trophy range and play a bunch of opponents, even the matched opponents. And, their shots are going to be, on average, the farthest away from the hole out of any of the first, for sure, 8 or 9 tours. So that's one of those nice things. Now, remember what I said last time. So I'm kind of towards mid club, which is usually like 1.1 per. I'm going to play more like 1.3 per. I'm going to go just a hair over 3 rings here. I'm going to do that little bit of curl back that I was mentioning before. And we're going to see if I can't get this going, somewhere towards the hole. And here you're seeing it come in. I miss by under a cup. And this is just kind of one of those things that, I'm mentioning to you guys. Because you can pull off these shots. You get these easy wins. You can get an albatross. You can get an eagle. A lot of these holes are very manageable. If in Tour 6 they give you a half decent wind. So I just want you to be in that mindset of not letting one hole basically, put you on tilt. And here you're seeing me almost get the albatross. And I think there's a lot of scenarios where, you can win before even getting to the shootout. Now here I'm going to play this a little bit more serious with my adjustment. And I'm going to go more towards the center of the circle this time. but I am glad to be talking about a crosswind. So one of the things that I like to do when it's coming in left to right here is I like to put at least one counter on it, one side spin. Because when it's swinging in left to right like that, it's going to have a tendency to kind of shoot off to the right. And there you're kind of seeing it. It's still a pretty good shot, but you see it just kind of dive off to the right a little bit. So I like to counter that a little bit, especially with that hill that I was just mentioning before. Now, the shot that I like to do is more, 3.5. And again, like I mentioned before, so I'm going to make this more my landing spot. And you see how it's kind of pointed to the left there. So I'm going to play at least, 5 rings when I'm doing this hole. Here you're shooting kind of at the hole, and you see that counter kind of got it to straighten out a little bit. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's a nice strategy that can kind of keep it from diving off. You can do it with curl as well, but it's a little bit easier to be a little bit more precise with the side spin. So that's one of the reasons that I'm letting you know that Marlin, can really help you take advantage of a couple shootouts. Just for that extra shot, because you never know what the wind that you're going to get is going to be. You just never know. Okay, so here we're seeing the other par 5 now. And one of the things that I just wanted to point out to you, you're seeing how quarterback just gives you that added extra curl bonus. It's really like, in my opinion, not, apocalypse without the distance. And for that reason, I think this is a great club for this tour. Now, more times than not, especially if I pull out my Apoc and just beat the crap out of the ball and get down there close, I'm going to pitch in a couple more times, a higher percentage. But, for all intents and purposes here, you don't need to hole out to win. And that's kind of why I'm trying to give you the strategy for the shootouts to be able to win the shootouts. So let's see here. I'll back off this time. Let's do another quarterback, basic ball. Let me take a look. Doesn't look like I can quite get to where I want to distance-wise to go that way. So let me just point out this shot to you, which is going to be a little bit more aggressive. I do like to take some of the top spin off. So here you're going to see maybe 3-4 bars, and I just want to show you some. I'm going to aim, about 6 rings right of my target. I'll just curl it just ever so slightly. Now, the reason that I don't want to over curl it is because I don't want that second hop to hit that rough. So that's why you're not seeing me get a little too carried away. Now, I'm a little on the short side here. But I haven't played this with quarterback, so I just wanted to be a little cautious. And as you can see, I could have put one more top spin, but I just didn't know that for certain. So I wanted to be just a little on the cautious side, and I'll still be able to get there. But you see, I'm going to be pushing max here, which is okay. I'm okay with that. I mean, you can already see that guy's almost at max here, and he's much farther than me. So if you do that skip shot that I just did there, if it's into the wind, you know, you can go full top spin there, you know, whatever it is, 5.5 bars with the quarterback. I think quarterback 9 only has 4 bars though, 4.5 maybe. So you might have to go, if you have a quarterback 9 or even lower, you know, you might not be able to play that shot. You might have to play it a little bit more out to the right and just curl it. And here you're seeing, you know, I'm right towards max. So when I'm at max, I just kind of want to size the shot up. You know, I'm trying to visualize here about basically 5 rings. I'm going to make this my landing zone. So you're seeing 5 rings is, I need 5 rings of power. But instead of doing it that way, I'm going to do it visually out to the side. So 5 rings is probably more or less, you know, it's probably more or less 5 rings over. So I'm going to play about, you know, my 10, 11 rings, somewhere in there. Just put a little bit of curl. And I'm assuming it's going to have right around 5 rings of power, more or less. It looks kind of close. The curl, might not have had enough, and then I think I great balled it to the left. Probably didn't help my case, but you see it's respectable. And it's just kind of, if you tilt the screen there, you can kind of visualize that, you know, that was pointed roughly 4 or 5 miles per hour downwind. Because let's say, you know, I pushed up 5 rings and then it was tilted sideways like I did at the end there. You could see it's kind of coming back at the angle that about 10 or 11 rings over is. So you can tell, you know, especially if you were to draw like a triangle, pull up and draw a triangle where the hypotenuse of your triangle is the direction, the same direction of the wind, and you're just trying to visualize what 11 rings over is, because, you know, that's the way that the wind is good. Like the way that the wind is going to point is where you need to kind of set up where it's coming from. So if you were to, you know, create like a little triangle, and I was just trying to do it visually. I was trying to visualize, you know, 11 rings over, kind of where that was. And I could just tell, you know, roughly 4 to 5 to 6, somewhere in there, miles per hour down was kind of spot on. So here you're getting to see a little bit different shot. Now his shot is a good shot. I want you to know that you can go for that. So I'm glad that he put it in there. It just needed a little bit more backspin. I don't know what he used, but I think I think it's between, you need just a touch of backspin there to do that. And what you're going to see me do, in fact, you can see, you know, ball trail wise, kind of what we're looking at. So especially, you know, I'm definitely going to start getting more aggressive with my quarterback. So you can kind of see visually what's going to happen here. Now, I never like using that much slope because it comes down too fast. So you'll see me play, you know, the 2 rings. You can overplay this a little bit, but I like doing it with curl. And just kind of missing a lot of that slope and just feeding it towards the hole slowly. So here you're seeing me miss. Oh no, you're not seeing me miss. Never mind. False alarm. But if I did miss, look how close it was going to be. And so that's one of those things that doing that with, and this is one of the reasons that I'm playing this club altogether, is because of this shootout. I can consistently put that ball within within 2-3 yards top, like, and I feel like most of the guys, especially in the 1500 trophy range, they're not even going to be able to put it that close. So there's two ways you can go about it. Thor's hammer 2, no, it's Thor's hammer 3. So Thor's hammer 2 is only going to have about 40 backspin. You're going to need a Thor's 3 to pull off that shot. And I think the quarterback that you're going to need is a quarterback 9. So if you don't have that, in fact, if we get that hole again, why don't I just kind of talk about that shot? But I wanted to show you that shot with the quarterback because I think you can execute it, very well with a quarterback. You got to see a lot of ball trail, though. And you could see, even with the ball trail kind of showing towards the hole, I still deviated from it. I still didn't want to go that route. I could basically, you saw me sizing up that shot there, and you could see that it was feeding off the hill towards the cup, right? And yet I still didn't go for just, let me hit perfect ball and just try to take the ball trail. I was using more logic base with my shot, as opposed to letting the shot guide kind of point me in a direction that I didn't want to go, because if I miss the hole, it's going to kind of swing towards the fringe. So that's what you're seeing as to why I, kind of deviated from, even though what looked like, they were setting me up for a hole-in-one with how much ball trail I had, I still went away from the ball trail. Oh, wow. Another Zach replay. Wait, I hope this isn't the same one. That would make for a boring game. And you see what I do kind of with my spin here? I always make sure that the ball's rolling away from the right. Like, I want to create extra momentum to the left. And you see me actually release there. I release a little late because I never want to bring the right rough into play there. And again, here we're seeing, so, this may or may not be the same replay. I'm honestly, just at this point, I'm not even sure, because I had this same scenario multiple times. For whatever reason, I played this a couple times. So let me think about the shootout that I did with this. What I'm trying to remember. I might have to go back to the first video hole because I don't remember the shootout that we went to last time at all. I don't know why. I think it was the I don't remember. And here you're seeing a little bit different scenario. I'm back a little bit farther. I'll play the safe shot here. And when you're playing this, you always want to over adjust. There's 5 rings, there's 10 rings. I'm going to go more than the 10 rings. I'm probably going to go, 15 rings or 14 rings. That extra backspin plus the downhill nature of the shot. See, look how short that was landing. I just want you to be aware of that. You have to overcorrect because it's downhill, down into the wind. Those two factors combined with one another is going to make that ball land short every time. So when you're back here on this other fairway, it's a little bit harder of a shot. Holy crap. I'm thinking this isn't the same replay because I know we didn't play a 12 sideway last time. I'm pretty sure I had basic ball on. So here you see me at Min Club. So I am going to, Probably bring it up a little bit. And there you kind of see it pointing down towards the hole. So one of the things that I always do is I kind of size up, make sure to the right that I'm still good. Because I know that the shot trajectory is going to change a little bit after it lands. So I make sure that all that landing zone there is still good. And I'm going to go visually maybe 10 rings here. I'm going to do it with just a tad bit of swing. And I'm going to tend to be usually a little bit on the safer side with pulling long, for example. Making sure that my correction or whatever, like if I'm pulling back, that I'm past the hole with the way that I'm pulling back. As opposed to, if I get a little too cute, I could come up short and it could just bounce a little funny, and you don't want to be in the sand. So it's better to be long and wrong than short here. So I just want you to, think about that when you're setting up those crazy adjustments. You just saw some severe wind there. So that's, I think, pushing max wind. I'm not sure it gets higher than 12.0. So you're seeing quite a bit of wind there. Now we already know that this replay is probably going to be pretty good. I'm assuming. I don't think I messed this up at all yesterday. So I might have one time. Maybe once I did. But never bad. It's a very consistent shot. The worst thing you can do here, as you can see visually here, is with my Thor's hammer, there's not a lot of precision that it has. So if I was to go great ball right here, I'd be in a little bit of trouble. So, and here we're seeing it swing in. Very good shot. Going to be nearly impossible to beat. Now I can do it. I can replicate that shot and beat that probably. My quarterback has a tad bit more spin, but I kind of wanted to just talk about this shot here real quick. So here we're seeing max club. Now I do believe when we're a little bit short of max here, and you see there's not a lot of wind, I might create just a little bit of topspin. I think it needs it, just a touch. And you're going to see me aim very aggressive, especially without having curl. And you're going to see me, play the 2 rings. I'll play the 2 rings, and I'm going to basically go as full as I can on my phone, right off the edge, and just curl it around here. I just wanted to talk about this shot as an alternate approach, and you're seeing it is just a tad bit more spin. I think I did half a bar. It's probably 1 full bar. It looks like I'm coming up a little bit short there, but I wanted to show you that just as an alternate approach in case you don't have the ability to have one of those 2 clubs that I mentioned, Thor 3 or higher, or quarterback, I believe 9, to hit that backspin. The shot that I just did is going to be your best bet. Now you need to overplay the wind just a touch there. It does play a little bit downhill, but it's not much. It's not much, but it is a little bit. Add 10% to your aim, wind play on your sniper, at least. Probably 10% on max club number. So, you get, for example, a 10 wind, go at least 11 to 12 rings. Somewhere in between there. On top of that, you always need to be thinking, so if I'm doing that with basic ball, I'm in a little bit of a bind. You see where my landing zone has to be. It's very, very aggressive. Now let's say, for example, the wind was pointed to the left. It's going to make that shot even monumentally more challenging. You're going to have to always aim aggressive there. It's better for you to come into that hole with a marlin, in my opinion. So if you are in jeopardy of needing to hit that shot because you don't have one of the, at least a Thor 3 or a quarterback 9, then yeah, I'm just going to basically suggest that you always keep a marlin ball on just to be on the safer side of things, because you're going to need to find a way to curl that over. And if I got a left wind there, I mean, you saw with no wind, it was perfect. It was going right at the hole. But in the event that it's pushing straight right to left, I need 3 extra bars of side spin on that same line. I need the 3 bars of side spin plus the same line just to get the ball back on line where I just hit it on that shot. And if I don't hit it on that line, it's going to take too much slope and you're not going to be very close. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out is on that hole, my opponent would probably, most likely, be prone to make a mistake there. Because the wind would be so hard, the chances are, your opponent's going to be, for example, 10 yards. So you have the ability to kind of win the game with kind of a half-decent shot as opposed to an epic shot. So I do want to point that out to you. So just something to think about. But I do want you to be aware of that if you do get that right to left wind there and you need to hit that hook shot, one, make sure that, if you have sniper on and it's like a 9 wind, make sure you go at least 10, probably, close to 11, and you got to land really aggressive where you saw. What's nice about sniper, it's super accurate. You have a couple rings to play with. Like you could great ball left, you could great ball right. It wasn't going in the bunker. So that's something to keep in mind. But aside from that, you're going to need that side. Without 2 side spin there, it's not going to be able to get on the line that I just got on. Like, it's not even going to be possible. You would have to cheat the landing zone even farther up into that little crevice than I was already aiming, which is going to start to get very risky. So definitely something to think about. And you see here what I like to do. I like to do it with roughly about 3 bars of topspin. And here you see it kind of shooting towards the hole. So what we're going to do, you see I'm right on max club, which is perfect. So I'm going to pull it in ever so slightly because I know it's going to be coming in a little bit hotter than it's showing. So I'm going to pull it in before I start to aim. I'm going to do my 8 rings because I'm right at max club. Now, on top of this, since I see it curling and I know that after the ball lands it's going to deflect it a bit, I'm going to do that counter curl there just to be a little safe. There's nothing wrong with missing right here. See, you get right on this fringe. This is an easy dunk. You don't have to play the wind no matter what the wind is. Even if it's a 12, you still don't have to play it from here. You're close enough. And it's a nice, safe shot. Now, the closer that you get, the more you can start to think about trying to hold this thing. I had one of the more challenging winds to hold it. So what I like to do is, I still kind of go for the shot, but I set up a shot that if I'm going to miss, it's not going to roll down the hill. Even though down the hill's fine, still go for the dunk. And again, you don't have to play the wind from the bottom of the hill. It's just a little bit more deceiving and it looks a little bit more visually intimidating, and it is. So, but don't let that fool you because you'll still make the dunk with proper execution. I just try to, when I'm down that hill, I try to put it more towards at least the center of the pin, maybe just a hair more than the center of the pin. Just a hair more, not very much. Not enough to leave the cup, not even enough to even mention, like 60% of the cup. Like, I'll just move it ever so slightly to the back of the pin and then hit the shot. Now, let's talk about this hole. I try to stay away from where he just landed it. That's about as right as I ever want to land. And you're seeing, you know, that's the reason that his ball's over to the right, is because of his landing zone. You know, he was probably 2 yards landing zone from just being absolutely perfect. So I do want to mention that. I try to stay away from, you know, anything more right of a landing zone than here. And you see I'm right at max. I do like to use a little bit of backspin. And of course, visually, I try to make sure wherever I'm setting up, it's feeding off the hill. So here is where I'm making my distance. So I want to use this as my distance. You see I'm right at main, or I'm right at max here, very close. So I'm going to go 5 rings. I'm going to go 8 rings. And on top of that, I'm going to do curl as well, because I don't have the side spin. You see it's just coming up. It's feeding the hill. It's not quite shooting quite enough. And this is where, you know, marlin would make your life a lot easier, because you're seeing I didn't quite shoot down towards the hole there. I just missed it. You know, I was under a yard of where it needed to be to feed right at the hole. And that just shows you how touchy that shootout can be. So, you know, the easiest way to play that hole is with a katana. You know, a great ball. We get that shootout so few times, though, you know, it's not worth unless you know, if you play the tournaments or whatever, you have plenty of, you know, Titans katanas. You know, Tour 6 can be a good time to have those side spin. You know, I'd recommend more like a Quasar. You don't really need the extra distance, so, you know, Quasar or katana would just be a money ball for that hole, because the way that you set it up, you can see the flex. You can see that it's already feeding at the hole when you use the full side spin, and you can just tweak that landing zone. Basically, you'll play your 8 rings, for example, and then, you know, I might counter curl it just a hair, and that's it. It just feeds at the hole virtually every time. But I do want, you know, you have to have a high level of precision for that hole. So I do want you to think about that. Like, you don't have a lot of room for error there. If you land, for example, 2 yards off of your target line, it's the difference between, so you just saw me there, 3 yards, and you know, 1 yard, landing at 1 yard to the right of where I just did, for example, would have been enough to just feed it right at the hole. It's just a yard. Look at this guy, Labor Day ball. That's crazy. So here we haven't seen this hole yet. I'll just go ahead. More than likely, I'll call this one a day. I think I've put a lot of content out there. It's the only thing about this new app that I have. I'm not sure how long I've been recording. I got to see if I can figure out how to make this app timestamp the videos. And you see what I like to do here? You know, I can land pretty aggressively, kind of get it right into this nice little funnel. So that's what you're going to see me do to set up for my third shot here. I'm not going to do it with like crazy curl, because I don't want it to roll into the rough. So you're seeing I'm not curling it or anything. I just basically kind of nestle it in that nice little funnel. And if you start to put some shape on it to get it going more left, it might swing with a little bit more velocity and roll into the rough. What you're seeing me do, you know, perfect. And if we get an easy wind, it's holeable from over there. It's a little bit easier with, you know, Powerball. But it's decent. You see this guy has a 3 power ball, a 3 power, 3 wind resistant ball on. So here, this is actually a relatively easy wind. So let's see if we can't go for this sucker. So let's talk about this a little bit. First, I like to, kind of find a groove here. And you see it is a little funky. Look at that. That sucks because I kind of have to line it up. So if anything, I need to just land it long of this. So here, you're going to see me aim for this. And then I'm going to go at least 6 rings here because it's into the wind. The ball is going to deflect. You're going to see me going right towards those 6 rings. I'm going to ever so slightly counter it back because it's going to be deflecting a little bit to the left because of the way that it's visually pointed. Now, I might come up a little bit short, and yes, I am. So what you're seeing there, I just want to show you what just happened. So you see, what does it look like? I'm 3 yards short almost. That is all caused by being straight into the wind, and the way that the ball trail was showing with no wind is affected. It comes 3 yards too short. So you need to do one of 2 things. You either need to take a little bit of that spin off, or you need to overcorrect in the degree of, say, 2 rings. I would have had to at least go 2 extra rings of power there. And as you saw, I was right at max. Otherwise, I would have, put on at least an extra ring. You saw I was kind of at max. So, I could have went into power. But I was just kind of hoping that it might get there. But it still didn't. And I wanted to just touch on why it didn't get there. And that's the reason. It's that ball trail that you saw. It's not playing like that. Because it's into the wind. And the wind's restricting it from getting to that point since it's straight into it. Now, let's see what we can do on the shootout here. Well, I'm glad we got this hole because I did want to talk about one other shot here. And might as well try to go for it here. Why not? So, quarterback has quite a bit of accuracy. You see, if I miss a ring, I'm still on this island. So I just want to talk about this island shot a little bit. So first, you're going to see me pull back almost to the rough. In fact, you're going to see me here, I'm in the rough. And that's because it's downwind, and I know that it's going to, well, no, you know what? This might be too much, though. Yeah, because it's not going to take the back slope. So you got to make sure that so I'm doing 4 rings there. I need to over adjust. I need to go at least 10 rings. You're going to see me do 10 rings. I'll do just a touch more curl because I need to get it swinging around to the left on top of all that. And here you're seeing me hit it. And it looks like I might have just needed to get a little bit more curl on it. It's even better with side spin. But let's just see visually where I can get it to. That looks like about 1.5 yards. Well, shoot. I want to see somebody else come in and, beat that. Like 1.5 yards is a darn good shot on this hole. So I just wanted to, put this out there for you guys. That's another option, and kind of quarterback kind of makes that an option because you have room to shank it 1 or 2 if you're very careful with your wind play. Now, what was my win there? Was it 9 something? Whatever it was, I think I went, 10 and a half, 11 rings. So, I added that since it's downwind, downhill, all those things. I added that extra that I was just mentioning. It's that extra like 15 to 20% because it plays downhill. So you have to be thinking about that when you're doing your adjustments. So I'm glad we got that wind. Quarterback brings that into the option. You saw what I did with my backspin. It was about 4, I believe. And 4 downwind seemed perfect. Into the wind, it'll be more like 3. 2 point. If it was just as strong into the face, maybe 2.5. 2 1/4, 2.5. You wouldn't need much backspin at all. And, you know, if it's pointing to the left, you probably won't need much curl, but you saw ours was pointed to the left and I used ever so slightly. I probably should have used about half curl to get that going back towards the hole. But again, if you have a side spin ball, you know, a Marlin, if I would have had that extra 2.5 side spin, it was probably perfect. Hit that same shot, you know, 2.5 in that just baby curl that I did. But since I didn't have that, you know, a little half curl shot would have been about perfect. But anyway, hopefully you find this Tour 6 video helpful to your game. We talked about some new creative approaches here that I didn't discuss and really haven't had time to publish for you know, my shootouts. So we did get a couple other shots here, a couple of different ways to play things, and hopefully this video is useful for you guys. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to comment or share my videos to other people if you like the content. You know, the best way to kind of get my videos more exposure is spreading it to other people. So feel free to do any of that. And other than that, good luck with your Tour 6. Let me know if you guys need anything else. Thanks.